Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tooth and Claw Podcast. Maybe we have some new listeners that found us through Chimp Crazy. This is just a standard, boring old episode. No chimpanzees in this one. We have chimps. Our wildlife biologist, Wes Larson. You may know him from Dior commercials or National Geographic. Okay. I was Wes's field tech. And then we got Mike Smith with us. I would say Mike Smith's one of the only people who's like really on board for Cybertrucks, but doesn't want one.
Oh, yeah. I never will drive one.
Thinks they're like pretty sweet.
I'm happy they're out there. A little different, a little spice on the road.
It does spice things up a bit. I do give them that.
I'm in a good mood because football's college football's back, but NFL starts in 2 days. I have 10 fantasy leagues, over like 100 patrons playing fantasy football with me again.
Are you going to pay them this year?
It's always been, if anyone requests money from me during payouts, I hit yes.
Yeah, so just request money from Jeff that time of year.
I'm not even sure I got all the payments this year. It's been so busy, but yeah, for people who don't remember or didn't know, like there's a story on Tooth and Claw where I was playing fantasy football with computer versions of my college friends just by myself. And then the Tooth and Claw listeners stepped up the next year. So
that was early.
Come a long way
in our podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also just got back from Africa. The three of us went to Kenya together with a lot of listeners, like 20 plus people. And we had a great time. It was a great group. We had saw some wonderful wildlife. We had like some really exciting things that we did.
Do you remember their names?
I do. I got them right here. I'm gonna say everyone's name that went on that trip.
What?
We had Sabrina, Mickey, Kara, Anastasia, Leia, Kelly, Kurt.
These are ranked from your favorite to least favorite.
That's not true. That's not true. This is I just kind of wrote them down. All right. Where was I?
Last.
Kelly, Kurt, Austin, Nils, Hannah, John, Vanessa, Kristen, Anthony, Chris, Liz, Kylie, Anna, Gina, Peter, Nicole, Elizabeth. So
you didn't like Elizabeth?
I put Elizabeth last actually on purpose because Elizabeth was the last one to show up.
That makes sense.
Okay. Chronological.
I did worry, like, man, I don't want whoever I put last to have their feelings hurt. But then I thought Elizabeth can go last because she showed up last.
Yeah, I think, I think I'll do some version of another trip recap episode because I don't know.
It may be wide, it may be Patreon.
Few days.
Yep, we'll get something out there. And Mike's got a recap that he's going to do too. But yeah, we had a great time. We saw a lot of really cool wildlife. I'm still a little jet lagged. We had like our flights canceled a few hours before we were about to catch them, so we had a real wild ride trying to get home.
Luckily, none of us had to be back for anything.
All three of us had pretty serious things to get back for.
Where would you rank how badly the three of us need to get home? Like most important, least important.
I would say mine was most. Mike was second. Yours was third.
What?
I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
Jeff's is first in my book.
I was hanging out with someone pretty cool right when I got home.
Jeff was. I had something tragic happen, and
Me
Mike
too.
had a wedding, an important wedding to get to.
Yeah, my mom was replaced.
One that you would have been fine had you missed.
The funniest part is like Delta gave us flights where we weren't going to make it in time for Mike's dad's wedding. And he's just like, oh, that sucks. And then I found us a path home that got us there in time, but Mike was just accepted.
Mike was
guess I don't get to go.
He was sitting on the bed and he's just like, sometimes you just gotta shake your head and laugh. Made me so angry because I was distraught trying to get home. My reason we're gonna get to in a bit, but it was a sad one. Anyway. That's probably good. Should we get into this episode?
Yeah,
let's get in there.
All right. So we have talked about dogs a lot here on this podcast. Specifically, we've talked a lot about how they affect bear encounters. We've told a lot of stories where dogs were a factor in bear encounters. And I still stand by my position that an off-leash dog can really make bear encounters much more dangerous than they would be otherwise. But dogs can also save your life. There are people that have had dogs with them where they saved their lives.
I'd like to hear an example of that.
That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about stories where dogs help save their owners when they're confronted with dangerous wildlife. Okay, I should mention that a lot of people have requested an episode on dogs as the antagonist of an attack too, like when domestic dogs attack people. Mike, you did a dachshund episode where we talked about that a little bit on our Patreon or our Apple Grizz Club, but we will get to that at some point. That's an episode I'm kind of dreading. I don't really want to do it because I love dogs so much, and I just know we're going to get a lot of flack when we finally do that episode too. So who knows if we'll actually do it or not. But
that's why you love doing grizzly bear episodes, is you hate grizzly bears.
Just hate them. I think it's different, and I'm going to explain why it's different in this episode. All right, so we're going to start on October 12th, 2015, when 53-year-old Kate Cholowa was walking near Point of Rocks fishing access site on the Yellowstone River in Paradise Valley, Montana. The fishing access is busy. It sits right next to Highway 89, which is the road you take down Paradise Valley to get to Gardner and into Yellowstone. And Kate had moved to Montana in 1987 for grad school, and she'd never left. She liked taking walks in beautiful places around her home, and these walks had been commonplace for her to do together with her 12-year-old black lab mix, Carmen. Carmen was actually recovering from a torn ACL. It was an injury that had sidelined the dog. Instead of being so energetic and constantly leading Kate on all these walks, Carmen would actually walk next to her now, and Kate was really careful not to let Carmen get ahead of her because she didn't want her to overexert herself and re-injure her ACL. She had actually adopted Carmen as a puppy from the Missoula Humane Society, which I live right outside of Missoula. Me and Jeff grew up in Missoula, and these two did everything together. They were very close. So in the many years that they had walked together at Point of Rocks, they had seen lots of signs warning about grizzly bears, but they'd never seen a bear or even tracks of a bear. Kate knew that both grizzly bears and black bears could be found in the mountains surrounding the valley or down in the park, but the fishing access area seemed relatively safe. There was a lot of traffic in and out, and it just seemed like a safe place because they'd never even had kind of a whiff of a bear there. That was all about to change. On that afternoon in October 2015, Kate was singing to herself. Guess what song she was singing to herself? You're not going to get it.
All by myself?
My milkshake brings all the boys to you.
Oh, it's a better guess.
It's neither of those. She was singing Stan by Eminem. And she was
I think
singing,
that might be my favorite Eminem song.
Me too. And she was singing the Dido, or is it Dido? It's Dido,
Ditto?
Right? I don't know. D-I-D-O part of that song. Please
Right.
don't.
Well, that's
that
like
part.
a whole different song. That could have been not
Right.
Stan. That could have
But
just
she
been
was
the
singing
original.
Stan.
She was like rapping the verses.
I don't know. That's what the
What?
article said, that she was singing
Okay.
Stan and she was singing that part. So maybe she was rapping too. Anyway, she was getting through the Dido part. She looks down and she sees the hair on Carmen's back standing up in a way she'd never seen before, and the dog's emitting a low growl. Kate slowly looks up, and standing in the trail just a few feet from her was a large grizzly bear. And before she could even register what was happening, she was on the ground with the bear on top of her, biting her and mauling her. And her only thought she had in her head at that point was that she was about to die. Suddenly, she felt the presence of her dog nearby, and she hears Carmen barking, and the bear actually lifted off of her, and she could move again. She got up, and although she knew better, and although Carmen was still locked in this fight with the dog, she actually ran off as quickly as possible. And when she did that, she had this pain hit her because she knew she was leaving her companion of 12 years behind, and she could imagine the dog being ripped apart by this bear, and her heart kind of tore in two as she was thinking about that.
Yeah.
She's losing a lot of blood from a gash in her head, and as she was holding that gash and trying to keep the blood in, she grabbed her phone and called 911. The operator asked her if the bear was still following her, and as those words came through the phone, she heard the bushes to her side start rustling, and she braced herself for another attack. But it wasn't the bear that ran out of the bushes. It was Carmen.
Yeah.
Carmen killed the bear.
Carmen did not kill the bear.
Nice.
But Carmen managed to get away.
Nice
So
job,
Kate took her
Carmen.
hands off these bleeding wounds. She helped Carmen into the car. They both waited for police and paramedics to arrive. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, and Carmen was taken to a vet and then a shelter in Livingston. And not long after, the duo was reunited, and they got to recover from their cut, scrapes, and bruises at home. Neither of them were seriously injured.
Do you think Carmen had to wait for the canine unit?
They were like, wait, we need
Not
to
just
send
the regular human
we need to
police.
send a canine for your dog. I don't think so.
I want to push back on one thing you said, or just like question it, I guess.
Yeah.
So you said even though she knew better, she ran away, and like I do think I've heard you say that before. Don't run from bears.
Yeah,
But
you definitely have.
I can recall a few instances.
I feel like this circumstance feels pretty different.
It is.
You know, where like something else is engaging the bear and has its attention, and the bear has already engaged with her and like mauled her a bit, because like the whole theory of like don't run from bear, or not theory, but like the advice don't run from a bear is like you might trigger a response, you might trigger an attack.
Yeah.
But the attack was already triggered.
Yeah, you still want to stay still. You don't want to like do anything in this situation because you're right. The attack was triggered, but this was most likely a surprise attack. And what are bears trying to do when you surprise a bear?
Neutralize the threat.
Neutralize the threat, exactly. You guys are good. So if the bear sees suddenly that threat's no longer neutralized, if that threat gets up and moves fast again, even if it's away from it, there's a chance the bear is going to re-engage and try and neutralize again. It's kind of like what happens in The Revenant almost, where he gets mauled and then he goes to try and like get his gun. And that's obviously like more of a threat than just running away. But the thing to do is just to lie still until the bear leaves you alone.
Because like in this case, had she just lied there, maybe the bear would have like came back to her.
It's possible. And she got away. So we're not going to say she did the wrong thing, but it's never what I would tell someone to do.
Like you should have it in your mind, don't run if there's a bear by.
And even if the bear is caught up with something else, if it suddenly sees something moving again, especially if it has cubs or something, it might hit that threat again. So I would just advise people to stay still, play dead if the bear is actually mauling you and you don't have a deterrent. All right, so they both made it fine. Neither were seriously injured. Their bond was made even stronger. And Kate actually kind of had like, this changed her entire life. She sees the incident as something that was almost sacred, and it brought her out of depression and made her far less cynical about the world. So it was actually like a really good thing for her in a lot of ways. All right.
She like starts like a help group
Where
to
you
get
just get
people out
mauled
of
by grizzly
depression.
bears.
I have a really unorthodox program. It involves you.
The great thing is it's a one-step program.
Yeah.
Do you hate talking to therapists? I got something for you. All right. So for me, meal planning, grocery shopping, pretty much everything that goes into eating can seem like a chore. I really don't like cooking that much. I don't like going and buying groceries. I don't care that much about eating personally even. So it does feel like a lot of extra work. And that's why I really, really liked Hungry Root. Not only did they send me food that I could prepare in different recipes, but they sent me a lot of snacks that I really like too, because I do a lot of snacking. And they sent me healthier stuff than I would buy if I were just to go to the neighborhood grocer or Walmart or something. All the stuff that I got was really healthy, it tasted good, and it made me feel really good. And I saved a lot of time by not having to go out and do it all on my own. So Hungry Root really is one of the easiest ways to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all of the planning and shopping, so you don't even have to think about it. I really liked how customizable it was too. I got to choose a lot of the stuff that I wanted. I got to tell them if I wanted like more sweets, more meat, whatever. And the package that I got, I was really, really happy with.
Not more veggies?
I didn't do extra veggies, no. I am a child. All right. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Tooth and Claw listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Free
a lot
veggies
of
for life.
veggies.
Why?
Just go to
What
Hungry
if I
Root.
live to be like 300 years old?
I think as long as you're still using Hungry Root, you're getting free veggies.
Wow.
Just go to hungryroot.com/tooth to get 40% off your first delivery and to get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/tooth. And don't forget to use our link so that they know that we sent you.
Wouldn't it be in their best interest to like make sure you die young so you're not taking advantage of that free veggie thing? Watch out for the delivery guy.
The delivery guy delivers it and then just puts a bullet in you. All right. So we are talking dogs today, obviously, and we're going to talk about our history with dogs. We're going to talk about dogs that save people. Before we get into the history part, I do want to do one more story about Canis lupus familiaris, which is the domestic dog. And this one comes out of Russia. This is a good story. And I like this one because there's a video of this interaction, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, cool.
All right. So in December 2020, in the northern Russian Republic of Komi, Komi, or Komi, one of the two.
Commies?
Commies. Yeah.
Russian commies?
That's me. That's good.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
got your little commie map
I got my
behind
Russian
you.
map behind me. All right. 10-year-old boy Yemelayan was playing a game of winter hide and seek with his siblings. This is December in northern Russia, so you have to imagine it's pretty endless night. There's really probably not too much to do in his small village of Sindor, and the kids around the village are probably doing whatever they can to enjoy the snow, the freezing temperatures, and just not go crazy during the long winters up there. But these frigid temperatures had also brought some unwelcome residents into the small village, and neighbors had been complaining about missing dogs.
Capitalists.
Yeah, Americans. They'd been missing dogs and livestock. And what do you think was killing these animals?
Polar bear.
Wasn't a polar bear. Not far enough north for that.
Grizzly bear.
Wolf.
Tiger.
Wolves. It was wolves. Mike got it. Wolves had been showing up in town. They were killing dogs and livestock, and they were getting closer to homes and people. So one night, as the children were playing hide and seek in front of their home...
Couldn't the dogs just be like, dude, we're one of you. Knock
we're
it
your
off.
cousin. Yeah. No. One night, as they're playing hide and seek in front of their homes, a CCTV camera on the family home caught Yemelayan running and jumping behind a snowdrift. Then, as you watch this video, just seconds later, a large gray wolf emerges from the woods and starts walking slowly toward the area where he's hiding. And my guess is that it thought he was injured or something because he was running and then suddenly he's laying still. So it must have really piqued this wolf's interest. And as the wolf crept closer to investigate, suddenly you see a streaking white blur on the video. And this blur was Jessie, the family's dog, a tiny Jack Russell Terrier. I'm trying to think of movies that have Jack Russell Terriers in them.
I'm trying to think what
They're pretty small dogs. They're really cute. They're small.
Aren't all dogs kind of streaking if you think about it?
Streaking?
Yeah.
This one wasn't streaking so much as it was a streak on the video. But that's a great question, Mike. Anyway, Jessie was no match for this large wolf. It's a tiny Jack Russell Terrier, but it didn't stop the dog from running at the big predator and its ancient cousin like a bullet. The wolf immediately grabbed Jessie, and now the yelping dog warned Yemelayan of the danger, and the boy ran inside to warn his parents. Yemelayan's father, Ruslan, and some other friends, which is a very Russian name, Ruslan,
Yeah.
and some friends rushed out. They scared the wolf away from the tiny body of the Jack Russell Terrier. Jessie had been torn up but was still alive, and they piled into their vehicle to drive to the nearest city. Unfortunately, Jessie passed away in the arms of the family on their drive to the way to the veterinarian, but she had given her life to protect this little family. So this was a dog that died for its owner. And like when you see this video, you see it is a tiny dog and a big wolf, and the dog does not flinch. It just charges at this wolf. It's pretty amazing.
Nice job, Jesse.
All right. So how did we end up with an animal that's such a faithful, loving, protective member of our family? So faithful that they'll charge and attack a wolf when it's almost certain death. Well, to answer that question, we're going to have to hop in our little time machine.
Let's
And
go.
we're gonna travel back about 100,000 years to when people really started showing up in Eurasia.
Are you sure
So,
there was even
Europe and
people
Asia? There were
100,000 years ago?
Homo sapiens been around for about 300,000 years.
Okay.
About 100,000 years ago is when we showed up in Eurasia. So Europe, Asia, Russia, all of those places. And that's when we really started interacting at a high level with wolves. I should mention I got a lot of this information from a PBS piece on dog domestication, as well as a TED Ed video by David Ian Howe, which was titled A Brief History of Dogs. Plus, I read a bunch of articles and a lot of Wikipedia entries as well. So there's actually a bit of dispute as to when the domestication process with dogs actually began, but some of the earliest fossil records of canids being in the same places of humans So like where they would find bones from dogs and people in like the same cave or whatever, those go back about 33,000 years. So that's even before we became, like before we were agrarian, before we had agriculture, anything like that. We were still hunter-gatherers 33,000 years ago. So we may have had dogs living in our societies even before Neanderthals went extinct, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something too that I didn't realize for a long time, that Neanderthals weren't like a step on human evolution. That was like a separate hominid species that evolved, and then we like killed them.
Oh, really?
Which is pretty wild. They think that they were probably killed by Homo sapien. So the general thought is that what the first kind of step in this process were that we had these ancient humans who hunted large prey like mammoths, all these different kind of megafauna that lived with us back then. And after they kill animals, there'd be large amounts of scraps and bones outside their camps. And that would draw a lot of animals in. And some of the animals that would come in closest were wolves. And it's actually the descendant of dogs and gray wolves is an extinct species of wolf that no longer exists. And that's something I just learned. I always thought that dogs just descended from our current gray wolves, and that's not true. They split off from each other when dogs were domesticated, if that makes sense.
Dire wolves, do you think?
Maybe. It's not. No, actually, it's not. But it's like a different, it's kind of like a primitive gray wolf. Anyway, these wolves, these ancient wolves that would approach human camps and steal or beg for scraps were probably individuals that were no longer in a pack for whatever reason. They were slightly less aggressive, but they were still highly sociable. So they wanted some sort of socialization. They would approach humans and they would beg for these different scraps. And because they essentially got free food, they were really successful. That's like a really easy way to live your life where you're not risking nearly as much. You're getting food. So they did really well, and they would breed and they'd have more puppies, and they're breeding then those characteristics into their pups. They're breeding pups that are less aggressive, pups that are willing to socialize with humans because they're getting free food. So that's kind of that first step in making this a tamer animal. And as these tamer wolves become more common around human camps, they start to serve some purposes for humans. So this started as something that was really only benefiting these wolves. It wasn't really benefiting humans that these animals were around. But then once they become tamer and tamer, they start benefiting the humans. Can you guys guess what that might be that they were doing for us?
Protecting,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like barking if something came up to camp.
Exactly that. Yep. Just serving as an early warning system.
They're probably howling because
for
they're wolves.
predators. Yeah, they probably howled a bit too. But you think about it, back then there was lions, there's saber-toothed cats, there's tigers, there's all these different predators that were major predators for humans. And so when you have a lot of wolves that live in your camp that will start barking or howling or whatever when these animals approach, it's an early warning system. On top of that, they were starting to help people actually hunt for prey too. So it started to become this mutually beneficial relationship. Plus, because wolves had familial social structures, so they have these really dynamic social structures in the wild, it made it so they integrated easily into our social structures, and they could even learn commands and roles from humans.
I mean, sometimes both in one.
Yeah.
The command to roll over.
That's true. That's not what I meant by roles, but that is a good point. They will roll over. Yeah. So a crazy thing about dogs is dogs will actually look where we point, which shows that they kind of understand our intentions. You can't even really train chimpanzees to do that, and that's our closest living relative, but dogs will do that. And another thing that they do is they will look directly into our eyes. And in the wild, that's something that animals don't usually do because it's a sign of aggression or whatever. But dogs do that, and it's a sign of socialization. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about that specific one in a bit because it's deeper than just that.
It is a good thing that we taught them how to roll over, though, to your point, Jeff. Because, what did they do when they caught on fire before that? They just didn't put it out. They knew how to stop and drop, but they maybe didn't know how to roll yet.
How else are you supposed to scratch their tummies, which is like the best thing in the world?
That's a good point.
So about 33,000 years ago is it when it was likely that wolves actually started living with people in their homes or their camps. And that's when we can officially say that we started domesticating wolves and they started turning into dogs, Canis lupus familiaris. And as I mentioned earlier, there's definitely some disagreement on that date of 33,000 years ago, but the earliest fossils where we were found together was 33,000 years ago. So that's what I'm going with.
How many years did it take to go from wolves to pugs?
A lot. About 33,800 or something. 32,800.
Yeah, it's in the future.
Yeah, it's not in the future.
It honestly doesn't seem like long enough looking at the difference between the two.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit too.
I would have said like billions. Pugs do not in any way resemble wolves.
So as Homo sapiens continued to keep and breed dogs, the tamest, most obedient dogs would be the ones that got kept and bred. This is what's called selection pressure. This is selective evolution, where we're actually selecting for certain traits. And a byproduct of selecting for the tamest dogs is that we were essentially favoring really juvenile and submissive traits in dogs. So pretty much we're selecting ones that acted like puppies for the longest. And this phenomenon of selecting traits associated with youth is known as neoteny. And many of our dogs today are in kind of a suspended state of perpetual youth. That's why our dogs are very playful and happy and kind of joyful, as they kind of act like puppies their whole lives. And that's what we did to them through domestication. All right. As we continued to keep these domesticated wolves, their physical attributes also changed. They got shorter snouts, smaller teeth, smaller overall body size, but they still essentially looked like wolves for the most part. But that started changing when we started giving them different jobs and purposes. And that was the result of artificial selection. So basically, we would breed dogs that have certain attributes together in order to end up with a type of dog that was really suited to a specific task. And I'm still talking about people a long time ago. So everything for dogs that are used for herding and guarding livestock, they would become shorter and stockier so they could nip at the heels of the livestock. Dogs that were used for like competitions and racing became really thin and sleek and fast. Dogs used for personal protection got really bulky and strong. And then dogs that were used for chasing badgers out of burrows were long and they looked like wieners or bratwursts. So these earliest changes in dogs came about because of these jobs that we were giving them and different purposes we were using them for. And then they also really changed when groups of humans would travel to different parts of the world with their dogs. They would meet new groups of humans with different dogs. Those dogs would breed together and it would create new types of dogs. So as humans expanded around the globe, dogs started changing pretty drastically. But the thing that really led to an explosion of different types of dogs was the English Victorian Society, where a lot of new dogs were bred purely for their appearance. So people started breeding dogs just to look a certain way because they wanted, like a poodle or an Afghan hound or something that just looked really fancy or different from everything else that everyone had. And during that Victorian era, they also started coming up with this idea of breeds where they had like these certified breeds of dogs. And that's where we got all the breed names and stuff for. And that's still continuing today. It actually, though, has led to some pretty gnarly health implications for dogs. You guys just brought up pugs. Pugs are an example of that, where they have like huge respiratory problems. They're just like, we bred all these weird things into what was a wolf, and it has just really messed it up. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of like breeding and trying to create new breeds of dogs. I think like that needs to end personally. Okay.
Pugs, not drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. I would say if you need a pug instead of drugs, get a pug. Drugs can be cool though too. All right.
That's true. Pugs and drugs. Maybe
yeah,
it's
doing
better.
both. Sure.
Right.
Tooth and Claw is brought to you by AG1. Listeners know by now that I love drinking AG1 every morning. It makes me feel better. It starts my day off better. And I just feel like I can do more. And I'm a big into Fast and Furious. Dominic Toretto, I'm pretty confident he drinks AG1 because like he's very Like, he stuck his arm out and grabbed Letty once. And I just think he's at the top of his performance. He drove a car down Hoover Dam.
Sure.
But also what it does is it lines your stomach when you take it first thing in the morning. And then the nutrients you have throughout the day, you get like the better parts of everything that you're eating. Don't take that from me. AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that delivers daily nutrients and gut health support and is backed by multiple research studies.
You know we love research.
So you can trust what you're putting in your body. You love research.
I do. When I read those studies, I thought, okay, they've checked all their hypotenuses.
I don't always have the most healthy diet either, so it's nice to start my day off with something good that will help me get the nutrients, utilize them to the maximum I can throughout the day. There's one product I trust to support my whole body health. It's AG1, and that's why we've partnered with them for so long. It's easy and satisfying to start your journey with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2. That's going to come in real handy in those winter months. Get that extra vitamin D, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/tooth. That's drinkag1.com/tooth. Check it out.
All right. So in my mind, the most important part of our shared history is that dogs and humans actually bonded chemically. So therefore we bonded emotionally, and dogs are often so in tune with their owners that they can interpret our emotions and our body language. I definitely saw this with my dog, where if Jessie was ever at all anxious or off or anything, Bryce knew that something was going on, and she responded to it.
Wes's girlfriend, for anyone who doesn't know that context.
Yeah, and Bryce was our dog. So even tens of thousands of years ago, humans would bury their dogs in a really kind of sacred way, or they would do combined burials with their dogs, which shows that they even had a treasured place or a valued place in those families thousands of years ago.
Oh, that's nice.
I mentioned earlier that dogs gaze directly into our eyes. In the wild, that's usually a sign of dominance or aggression, but with dogs, something really interesting is happening. When they look into our eyes, they trigger an oxytocin feedback loop that's also seen with mothers and newborn babies. So oxytocin is like the love chemical. It's pretty much like what you feel when you give someone a big hug, or when there's some sort of emotional bonding happening, our bodies release oxytocin. So when a dog starts staring into your eyes, you produce more oxytocin. And then as you're staring into its eyes, it produces more oxytocin. And there's this positive feedback loop that keeps growing. And there's some thought that the earliest wolves figured out how to do this, to bond with humans through eye contact. And that might have been what actually kicked off part of this domestication process.
Or to beg for food while you sit down to eat.
Yeah. When Bryce would stare at me, I could not say no. So one other positive interaction between dogs and humans that deals with hormones is that when we interact with dogs, our cortisol levels go down as well. And cortisol is the stress hormone. That's the hormone we release when we're stressed. And when we interact with dogs and when dogs interact with us, cortisol levels go down in both species. So that's really important because we don't really see that in many other animals. Cats, it does happen, the oxytocin stuff too, but it's really rare that sort of thing happens. And it shows...
So you'd say a dog's a better emotional support animal than that lady with her peacock she brought on the plane.
Yes, I would definitely say that. Yeah. I would definitely say that they're really our best friends. I think they are man's best friend.
Man and women.
So I have 2 more stories. Man and woman. Yeah. When I say man, I just Homo sapien.
Come on.
Okay. On May 16th, 2022, Erin Wilson was walking with her 2-year-old Belgian Malinois. A Belgian Malinois looks a lot like a German Shepherd. They're a little sleeker. They're the dogs that they often use as police dogs, attack dogs and stuff. They can be pretty impressive, intimidating dogs. This 2-year-old Belgian Malinois was named Eva, and they were walking near the Trinity River in Northern California. Erin was 24 years old, and she'd stopped at a roadside picnic area, and they decided to run down to the river, her and Eva. Eva was running ahead of Erin off leash when Erin heard something in the bushes, and she looked up to find herself face to face with the snarling mountain lion. The mountain lion charged out at her and swiped out, ripping through her jacket and cutting her arm. And in a panic, Aaron screamed for Eva and the dog came running. Eva slammed into the mountain lion and knocked it off of Aaron. And the two began fighting so ferociously that it was like a blur. It was hard to even see what was happening. And it seemed to be a somewhat even fight until the cat latched onto Eva's skull and the dog started crying out. So Aaron picked up some rocks. She started throwing them at the mountain lion and hitting the mountain lion with rocks in an effort to get it to release her dog. But nothing is happening. The lion's just clamped down on the back of the dog's head. So Erin runs up to the road, she gets a crowbar from her car, and then she finds a woman that had a big PVC pipe, and the two ran down to where the lion had dragged Eva into some bushes. They start hitting it with the crowbar, with the pipe, with everything. It finally retreats into the bush, and it releases Eva, or Ava, it's one of the two, and they scoop her up, load her back into the car. They speed to a veterinarian, and Ava, had a lot of pretty horrific injuries, including fractures in her skull, and punctures in her sinus cavity, but vets were optimistic and they managed to get her stabilized and then back home with Aaron. Unfortunately, about a month later, she passed as a direct result of the skull fractures, and it was pretty tragic because they thought that she was going to make it back. I got one more. This was a very recent one. This happened June 30th of this year. So Vanessa Chaput, who's 24, was jogging with her German Shepherd on a paved trail at Pine Lake Campground, which is in Yukon, Canada, on June 30th of this year, when suddenly she saw a group of 4 bears 10 feet ahead of her. Grizzly bears.
Wow.
Her dog
grizzly
Luna.
Bears?
Yeah, so a mom and 3 cubs. Her dog Luna chased after 2 of the smaller bears, which left her alone with the largest bear, the mom. She tried backing away, but the bear charged at her, wrapping its paws around her body, ripping into her skin near her spine, and repeatedly biting her on her arm and her thigh. And she talked about this on NBC News. She said it felt like she was. What did you guys think she compared it to as the bear was ripping her around?
Getting eaten by a truck.
No, not getting eaten by. What did she think she felt
Hit
like?
by a shark.
A rag doll. She felt like a rag doll. Yeah.
Okay.
She said there's an insane amount of pressure and that she has a really high pain tolerance, but it was worse than any pain she'd felt. And this attack went on for about 5 minutes, and she was thinking, I'm not ready to leave my daughter and my husband. And this bear finally kind of backs off a little bit when her hair clip breaks, and it snapped in the bear's face, and it surprised it enough that it stopped mauling her for a second, and it gave her time to sneak out and hide behind a tree, but the bear chased her down and found her again, was about to attack her until her dog, her German Shepherd Luna, returned, barked at it, and scared it away.
Nice.
And she says, Luna, her barking saved my life. She managed to...
Hairpin.
The hairpin also kind of
Were they
saved
able
her
to
life.
save the hairpin?
I don't know. She limped to the nearest highway. She used her watch to call emergency services. She spent 10 days in a hospital. She had broken arm, cuts requiring a lot of stitches. She had a lot of pretty serious injuries, and she's extremely thankful that she survived and that her dog helped her survive that attack.
She didn't say anything about the hair clip.
She didn't say anything about the hair clip. Nope. Unfortunately, the hair clip got left out of all this.
Huh.
Good dog.
Yeah. So I wanted to end on a happy one and a recent one. That one just happened.
Yeah, that's great.
Luna
Good job,
is the
Luna.
dog? Yeah, nice
Luna.
job, Luna.
Yeah, I think it was Luna. Is that right?
It's a great name for a dog.
Yeah,
I like that.
It is a good name for a dog. All right. Well, you might be wondering why I wanted to talk about dogs this week, and I'm going to do this the best way I can, hopefully without crying too much. But unfortunately, me and Jesse did lose our dog this week. I didn't think I would cry after all this, but here I am. She had been battling hemolytic anemia for about a month, and it was pretty hard. And when I went to Africa, she seemed really good. And then the last couple of days we were there, she just really did bad. She just it came back really strong. And the last couple nights I was talking with Jesse, and unfortunately about 5 hours before I got home, we had to put her down because she was in a lot of pain. And it's really hard, and it still is hard. And I think we're probably going to miss her forever. And Mike, I know you know this because you had a dog that was like your companion. All right, I'm going to get it together. I'm good. But until I had Bryce, I just didn't realize how pure of a love you can get from an animal. You know, they just really, it's a different kind of love. It's something, it's so unconditional and pure that it's really hard to get that anywhere else. And Bryce taught me that, and it was a really important lesson for me. And I'm never going to forget how it felt to be loved by her. I'm really just going to miss that forever. And I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say about your relationships with dogs, to interrupt me while I'm being all weepy. But I did just want to say that I love Bryce, that I'm going to miss her, and that dogs are really great.
Yeah. I hesitate to make this about myself because it's been so long, but when we lost Brock about 10 years ago, my German Shepherd, I still just can't even think of getting another one. It was just so devastating, and my heart's just broken for you and Jesse the past few nights, few days. And like you said, it's different, and it sounds crazy, but it took an emotional toll that even losing my mother didn't take on me, because you're kind of this animal's caretaker. You kind of feel like it's your charge. And then when they pass away, you feel almost inadequate. Like you didn't do your job, as illogical as that reasoning might be. But it's devastating. It's the truest, purest form of love that I have ever experienced, at least. And conjures up painful memories even all these years later. I love that dog still, and I will never forget him, and I'll never get over it all the way. And I wouldn't want to. I want to have that pain in my heart somewhere deep inside, because it's just a reminder, better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we had a family dog growing up, but I don't think we quite gave Sundance the opportunity to be a part of our lives in that way, which, like, you know, I'd like to maybe try that out sometime. But I'll just say I really love Bryce, and I was glad I got to like meet Bryce, and Bryce was just a great dog.
Yeah.
I miss her.
Sweetheart.
Yeah, I think
so sweet.
I think the silver lining to all of this for us is like Jesse and Bryce were like best friends. I feel lucky that I got to be like the third party and Bryce's like second favorite person in the world, but Jesse and Bryce are so close. And the beautiful part of it to me now is that another dog gets to feel that, you know?
Yeah.
Like another dog gets to be loved.
You guys will
by
have
Jesse.
a great home for a future dog.
Yeah, and it's going to be a rescue dog. It's going to be a dog that needs that. And so I do think that's like...
Look into pugs.
I'm not going to get a pug. We're definitely not going to get a pug. But anyway, we're going to talk during like the conservation portion, we're going to talk a little bit more about some advocacy around that. But I would just feel remiss if I didn't bring it up. And yeah, it's been hard. It's been really, really, really hard. And we really miss her.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into our categories.
This episode is brought to you by Element. You guys ever just had a drink of water?
Yeah, just had one 10 seconds ago. It sucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what Element's saying. Not really. Drink water. It's good for you. But healthy hydration isn't just about drinking water. It's about water and electrolytes. It makes sense. You lose both water and sodium when you sweat. And I sweat a lot. I'm kind of a sweater, you know?
You'd sweat in Italy or in Europe?
My gosh.
Without AC, Mike was kind of a wreck.
It was tough. And I'm glad that I brought some Element packets with me, because I desperately needed to be rehydrated with both water and electrolytes. But most people only replace the water. Why? Because since the 1940s, we've been told to drink 8 glasses of water per day, thirsty or not. Drinking beyond thirst is a bad idea. It dilutes blood electrolyte levels, especially sodium levels, which leads to headaches, low energy, cramps, confusion, or worse. So unless you like those things, you gotta get some Element in your life. You like headaches, Wes?
I don't like headaches. I have one right now.
Me neither.
Do you think it was Big Water that was lying to us? They were just trying to push 8 cups of water on us every day?
Yeah, for sure.
You think, how am I blanking on this? The hot dog guy.
Joey Chestnut?
Do you think Joey Chestnut recommends 80 hot dogs a day?
Maybe. Or Nathan.
It's worked out for him. Yeah, maybe we should try it.
I can't believe when Jeff said the hot dog guy, you knew what he was talking about.
What do you? I mean, there's one hot dog guy. It couldn't be anybody else. But check this out. I've got the solution for you, and it's not just drinking water. It's to drink water plus electrolytes. Enter Element. Created by former research biochemist Rob Wolf and Ketogains founder Louis Villaseñor. Villaseñor?
Sure.
Villaseñor? I don't know. It's got the little like twirly thing above the end.
Does it have a question mark at the end of his name?
Yeah, not quite. Element has enough sodium, potassium, and magnesium to get you feeling and performing your best. Plus, it has 0 sugar, artificial colors, or other dodgy ingredients to hold you back. You're also guaranteed to find an Element flavor you love. Try fan favorite citrus salt or raspberry salt, get spicy with mango chili, or mix chocolate salt into your morning coffee for a mean mocha. Element came up with a fantastic offer for us. Get your free sample pack with any Element purchase at drinklmnt.com/tooth. Be sure to try the new Element Sparkling, a bold 16-ounce can of sparkling electrolyte water. Sparkling.
No hot dog flavor?
Not yet.
No hot dog flavors yet.
That's the Limp Bizkit album if you need some of that.
Hot dog flavored water. That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there's buttholes on that cover until I was older.
Chocolate starfish?
Yeah. I didn't realize what those were.
Gross,
I
dude.
didn't realize until just now.
There's a bunch of buttholes.
Ellen's going to be pissed you brought that up during our ad read.
That wasn't, it was after the ad.
Element, like, we get a note that's just like,
No butthole
please
talk.
no more talking about buttholes.
On
like
all
a
their
list of
coffee
words.
from now on. Yeah.
List of words you can't use, and it's just like competitors and stuff, and then buttholes.
Limp Bizkit, Fred Durst.
It'd be funny if that's where we drew the line. We're like, we're
dropping Element.
We talk about whatever we want. You can't stop us. We're willing to drop you if you try to censor the word butthole.
No, it's delicious. We should end if we're gonna keep this. If we're gonna keep this,
I doubt
the
we
flavors
will,
are
but if we do,
delicious.
they're amazing. We all love them. Genuinely.
Like we obviously love Element. We can keep that.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about hot dog flavored Element. If they made it, it'd probably be good because all their other ones are good. Well, most of them.
I like
all
hot
of them.
dogs. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into our categories. Can we, please?
I had
Finally.
a hot dog for lunch.
All right.
Oh, man. Sounds so good.
Our first category is your favorite dog in a movie specifically.
I'm going with Gus from Iron Will, the sled dog, all white, beautiful. I don't
is a
know
good dog.
exactly what kind of dog he is. Beautiful, I guess, is what the kind of dog he was. And I like that movie a lot.
It's a good
For
movie.
you Kevin Spacey fans out there, he's got a little bit part in it.
Yeah. A lot of Kevin Spacey fans these
You
days.
just don't see a lot of them these days. So if you're kind of starving for, a little more Spacey in your life, check it out.
Is that the one where he turns into a dog and lives with his family?
No, that's Fluke,
No,
right?
Is that what that's called?
The Shaggy dog.
Okay.
Jesse's favorite dog
It's
movie is
Tim
called
Allen.
Fluke, and it's kind of a similar thing. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'll go with John Wick.
which one?
Like the first one.
the
Both,
Beagle?
both dogs need.
Okay.
The Beagle's my favorite, but like, it's one of my favorite movies, and without the dog, he's just a serial killer. But since they killed the dog, it's like, no,
all
these
out.
guys deserve it.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. Halle Berry's got some great dogs in that movie too. In the third one, cool dogs. I thought about this a lot, and something that I read made me decide on the dog that plays Air Bud, whose name is actually Buddy in real life.
Yeah.
And Buddy was found by his owner Kevin as a stray dog in the Sierra Nevada mountains in 1989. And he took him home and started just training him how to play basketball, baseball, football, soccer, and hockey. And he got so good at like bouncing a basketball on his nose and stuff that he was on David Letterman. And then that's why he got picked.
And then the Hollywood movie execs were like, I think we got something.
We got something here. Yeah.
Real
he was
rags to riches story.
He was in the first Air Bud. And then he was also like on one episode of what's the one with the Olsen twins?
Full House.
Full House. Yeah. So anyway.
Nice.
You know it'd be a good movie?
That?
What?
Like an Air Bud type movie?
I'd watch an Air Bud biopic.
A good sequel.
What?
You know, like the Like Mike movie or Thunderstruck, where like a kid finds Michael Jordan's old shoes and then can play like Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
If like someone a human found Airbud's old jersey or shoes and then could play basketball like Airbud and just bounce it off their head and make it every time.
Yeah,
but then they also like start doing a bunch of other dog stuff. Like they like hump people when they get up close to them and stuff.
Bone.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that was the unrated version, I guess. I never saw that one.
All right. So we're going to do the most heroic dog in pop culture. So a very heroic dog from any kind of pop culture. I'll go first on this one. I'm going to pick the two dogs, Turk and I forget the other one's name, from Swiss Family Robinson, because those dogs, like this is the 1950s or 60s, whatever Swiss Family Robinson that me and Jeff grew up on. They fight a lot of animals. Like they fight a tiger. They are just constantly surrounded by wild animals that this family is bringing around, and they manage to kind of keep it together. So those are pretty brave, heroic dogs to be able to do all that. I think they like fight some sharks at one point. Like those are some heroic dogs. So those are the ones I'm picking.
Right.
I'll go with Balto, the cartoon and the real life dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, pick. You can have it. I got another bag.
Do you have one? That's all I could think of.
Yeah, go with it. Tell us what Balto did, Mike.
Balto,
that's your pick.
He delivered some medicine to some people, I guess. I don't know.
He saw the Northern Lights in the cartoon.
Yeah, fought that bear.
That's right. Face went through all the vases.
He was like a half, though. Yeah. I guess you can still count, but he was like half wolf, half dog somehow or something.
Maybe. That still counts, though.
I'm going full wolf for mine now. So
okay.
I'm going with Ghost from Game of Thrones.
Dire wolf. Yeah, just very heroic.
Like, yeah, always there with Jon, helping out. Really good battles.
Yeah, and Jon just kept like leaving him places and not giving a shit about him too. Yeah. All right, I like that.
I guess I don't know if I agree with that. Jon's a good dog owner in my opinion.
I don't know. He left him so many times and just like gave him away at one point too at the end. He's not. Yeah. All right. My next question, next category.
He had a dragon at that point.
Yeah, but he's got. I would rather have a dog. No, I wouldn't. Well, yeah. Right now I would, but ask me in a few months.
If a dragon stares at you in the eyes.
Yeah, I don't think you feel oxytocin. I think you feel a lot of cortisol.
The one in Trek does.
Yeah, that's a sexy dragon.
Right.
All right. My next question is, what animal would you want to domesticate next? I think we've been asked this by listeners before, but right now, your current answer, if you could domesticate any animal, so it's not trained, it's domesticated. Like lots of people around the world have these animals and we've had them for a long time. What animal would it be?
I'm going to go with pandas.
It's a good pick.
Okay. Why?
I mean, we'd get them smaller. We'd maybe get like...
They are one of the smallest bears, too.
I don't know. I just think that, like, you can just give them bamboo. That's not too hard for them to eat. They're just fun. I could watch a panda all day long.
Yeah. I like that pick.
I kind of was thinking along similar lines with pangolins. I just think they're like...
Similar lines just in how the name of them sounds.
Kind of the same.
Well, a little bit that. But just like that they need our help. Like they're kind of like in critical conservation status. They're super cute. I wouldn't want to remove like a wild predator from... I don't know. I think that's cool to keep like
Let's
those
just say there's no like... moral implications to
no
this.
Downside, no ethical quandaries. Great. Yeah. I think a penguin, they'd be easy to take care of. You wouldn't have to do much to provide for them.
Penguin?
Like you said penguin there.
Oh, did I? Oh, man.
That's true.
What a freaking... We should restart the whole episode.
Yeah, let's just
no coming back from that.
I need to cry again.
Yeah.
I'm going to change mine at the end because I thought of a better one.
Oh, was it Red Panda? Is that what your better one is?
But I do think that's a great choice.
Because that's my pick. I think, like my knee jerk
you've owned raccoons, and those are similar, but kind of cooler.
Raccoon is like right up there for me too. But like, I think red pandas, same family. I think they're cuter. My knee jerk was to go with something big like a grizzly bear or something, but I just feel like the space it would take and the effort to feed them and everything, it would just be too expensive. So for me, I think a red panda is the right size and they're really cute and fun. So that's what I'm picking.
I'm changing mine to whale sharks.
Okay.
We just ride on them to go, like, instead of paddleboarding, you just, like, jump on your whale shark. And
Sure.
it just takes you wherever you want to go. You have a little date on top of it.
I like that one if you're like Aquaman or something. If you
live in Venice.
In the ocean.
I'll just live on the beach,
Yeah, your whale sharks can get pretty lonely, though.
Well, but, I mean, he doesn't need just... I'll have, like, a whistle.
Okay, that doesn't help him be less lonely.
He can be out in the ocean until I whistle him in.
Yeah, but if it's domesticated, we're his new social group. Like, that's how he gets interaction, is from you.
So I gotta live in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Jeff, you got an animal fact for us?
Yeah. So in places that get cold, turtles and like ponds and stuff, they bury themselves as deep as they can in the mud and just kind of go inactive for those coldest months.
Yeah. It's
You
called
don't say.
brumation. Mm-hmm. Brumation is reptile hibernation, essentially, and that's what turtles do.
You don't say, Jeff.
It's my animal fact. That's it.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Wow.
All right.
It's quick.
Our next category is going to be dog cage match. So I personally
this is a weird one.
It is a weird one.
Michael Vick went to jail for this.
Yeah. We're not going to be having them fight other dogs. They're fighting other animals. And I think we're just going to pick like the toughest dog. So in my mind, that's like a pit bull. I don't think there's any dog that's really much scarier than them. These Belgian Malinois are pretty like up there too, but it lost to a mountain lion. So I think a pit bull would probably lose to a mountain lion too. So I think the animals
Beats a coyote.
beats are like coyote, Nile monitor, some of our snakes, you know.
What do you think is like of the big cats, the most impressive big cat it takes?
I think a pit bull could probably kill
Cheetah?
a cheetah.
You think? I might.
I think
bet
it's a
on
good fight. I think it's a good fight, but I think anything bigger, a mountain lion and bigger is killing it. So mountain lion, leopard, all of those.
Snow leopard?
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't talked about them yet. They're not in our group yet. I do think I'm going to go through our animals we've talked about and make weight categories, and that'll make this a little bit easier to do. We've been putting that off for a while. But yeah, I think coyote is the one that's the most obvious one that it defeats right below it. And the most obvious one that beats it right above it is mountain lion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think about like a warthog?
Leopards kill warthogs pretty easily. I mean, there's a fight, but like they kill them. I think a pit bull kills a warthog. Warthog might be a pretty good fight for it. That actually I think is a really good one. I don't know who I would pick in that. Maybe the warthog.
Maybe.
Warthogs get quite a bit bigger too.
Right.
Okay. I want to know, in Africa, in our most recent trip, what were your guys' top 3 favorite animals that we saw?
I think we all have a top one that's the same.
Top 1?
I don't know if it's your top one, Wes, but cheetah is me and Mike's.
Yeah,
Is it yours?
easily.
I think mine was the secretary bird.
My secretary bird was number 2 for me.
Had that been
I loved that thing.
Had that been my first cheetah ever, I think I for sure would have picked cheetah. But that was my first secretary bird, and I think it was the one I got the most stoked about. So I think I'm picking the secretary bird.
When we saw like a cheetah with 3 cubs first, and it was just like all you could see was its head, and every once in a while one of the cubs or something would get up. They weren't like the tiny cubs, so they weren't
like adult cubs.
Peak cuteness. They were adult cubs. So then I don't know. We saw cheetahs, and it wasn't like the best view of them, but like me and Mike were already like, this is the coolest animal we saw. And then after that, we saw a cheetah like chase a herd of what do you call it? What were they called?
Topies and zebra together.
Which is like a pretty big antelope, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gave it the old college try. It really went for it. Yeah. Yeah. That was my favorite like interaction we saw. Like my favorite thing we saw happen was the cheetah chase those. But my favorite animal, I think, was the secretary bird.
Yeah. Number 2 for me would maybe be the elephants we saw at the river, just seeing like close African elephants. And like we saw one really small elephant that was flapping its ears really hard to cool itself off, and I just loved it. And then number 3, I'm going with our little hippo boat ride.
Okay. The hippos.
I just liked seeing all those little heads poking out of the water.
Yeah.
flicking their ears around.
Mike, what are your so cheetah's number 1? What are 2 and 3 for you?
Cheetah number 1 by a country mile. Number 2 is secretary bird. I just thought it was such a cool, just the way it kind of stalked around and surveyed the ground was like so interesting.
The feathers and stuff too are just amazing.
Man, they have like the cool, like almost a headdress kind of plumage coming out of their head. Just a really beautiful bird. And then number 3, I never got tired of seeing giraffes. They kind of command a certain reverence and respect almost. Every time we kind of came near one, we slowed down and got a little quiet.
Yeah.
And there's just something so unique.
Their slow like movements, like how graceful they move their legs and stuff. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. We saw
really cool.
quite a number of them. And every time there was one, even just like miles off near the horizon line, if I could see a neck, I was locked in on it for as long as I could be.
Like singular animal at a big distance to watch.
Yeah. We had a cool moment too where we like hiked in on some and where they were all surrounding us and we were like really close to them. My number 1 was the secretary bird. Cheetah was a close second. And for me, like a repeat animal, that's a big deal for it to be number 2 because that was really cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I loved the cheetah and it was really cool. I took by far the most photos I took of any animal on this trip were of that cheetah. Number 3 were the lions, because I had seen lions like at a distance in South Africa, but it was like not a great sighting. And having a small pride of lions walk right next to our vehicles, and there's just something about them. They're just such a cool cat. So that was number 3 for me. Yeah.
Turns out Africa has some cool animals.
Yeah, they sure do. I don't know if you guys knew that, but there's some cool animals over there.
Wes, you want to get jealous?
Yeah.
A lady on like the plane or like when me and Mike had to reroute and we went to Tanzania.
Yeah.
This lady I was talking to said she went into the Masai Mara and saw a black mamba in the road.
Oh man,
like
that would have been an easy number 1 for me for sure. Yeah, that's so cool. All right, quickly, I want to know your guys' favorite breed or type of dog.
German Shepherd for me. We had one ever since I have memories of being a human, which my whole life I've thought I've had memories of being human. I just love them. I love their floppy ears until they grow up and then their ears are not floppy anymore, but still cool. I know there's some weird hip issues going on with the breed, but I can't help it. I love them.
Yeah.
Love them to death.
Jeff?
I don't know if I really have a favorite dog.
That's fine. Yeah.
Maybe I'd say beagle. I don't know.
Bryce was like a black and tan. We think she was probably part Kelpie, but I really like black and tan dogs that have the little, you call them pumpkin seeds. They almost look like little eyebrows. I just think they made her so expressive and cute. So I just like mixed breeds. I like a mutt. Those are always my favorite. But if they can have those little pumpkin seeds, then I sure melt for them. And we'll probably end up with another dog that has that. All right, let's do some listener questions. I've got some from Patreon.
How do you feel about cloning a dog that you just love?
Sometimes I wish
to make it again.
We would have tried and done it with Bryce. But
really?
I don't know. It's really expensive, and we're going to get into how I feel about it in a second. But it is really hard not to feel like I would love to bring her back. So
yeah, there's another dog out there that you'll be able to love a lot, though.
Okay, this one's from Bella. Bella says, I was wondering if you could travel back in time to any time period to see any extinct animal in the wild, where would you travel to and why? I think we probably all have the same answer for that, right?
I don't know.
If it's not a T-Rex, then, or any kind of dinosaur,
that's
really.
the thing for me. I'm seeing a T-Rex.
Let's just say no dinos then.
Okay, no dinosaurs.
Dinos.
I want to see a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah, that's my next one.
That was up there for me. I might say the giant sloth that is like as big as an elephant.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This one's from Alex. Alex says, how many owls would you have to see in a single day to think something was wrong?
12.
That's a good question. I think for me, it would have to be like 15 owls.
Well, since the owl has...
At 14 owls, though, you're going to be like, this is fine still.
Right. I mean, there's some wiggle room on either side of that. But
there's no line of demarcation. But for me, since I try to avoid going outside, and that's where most of the owls are. If I see one, I knew something went wrong with my day.
Okay. Yeah. So one owl is all you need. All right. This one's from Taylor. Taylor says, favorite character in The Sopranos?
It's Tony. It's the boring answer. Yeah. But yeah, it is for me. Too.
Without a doubt, it's Tony.
I think mine's Silvio.
Okay.
Tony's definitely the hottest too.
Huh?
Tony's definitely the hottest character in The Sopranos. Silvio, huh?
Yeah.
He's the one from Bruce Springsteen's band, right?
I don't know. Him or Paulie? I love Paulie.
Paulie's really funny. On my rewatch, I felt much more conflicted about how I felt about Paulie, though.
Silvio's like the main, like the second in command, I feel like.
Yeah, he was in the E Street Band with Bruce Springsteen. All right. This one's from Lauren. Lauren says, I was listening to Mike's Humper episode, and I was just wondering what each of your favorite Beastie Boys song is. Mine is Girls.
No, I'm going to go What You Want. That's the song that kind of turned me onto hip hop as a whole, and it's just infectious, groovy, catchy.
Yeah.
Mine's generic, but Sabotage. I just love that song.
Mine is Sure Shot. Yeah, from Ill Communication.
Good lyrical content.
I love it.
Rest in peace, MC8.
Yeah. Okay. Jeff, do you have any listener questions from us from Instagram?
I sure enough do.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Tatoonie Izzo. I'm going to change their question a tiny bit for my answer, but you guys can answer how they asked if you want.
Is it Tatooine or Tatooine?
Tatooine is, sure. If you guys could have eyes like in the animal kingdom, which color form would you choose? So like an animal's eyes. I'm just going to answer it what eyes in the animal kingdom I think are the coolest. I don't think I would want
I don't want any animal size
eyes though. Sure. I mean, to me it's big cats, and of the big cats, like to me I think lions have the coolest eyes, just like the really, really light hazel eyes.
They are pretty. Yeah.
Okay. Mike, what's your answer?
I'm going to go with chameleon.
You just want an
I think that'd be really practical. Yeah. That'd be good point guard with peripheral vision. It'd be like Steve Nash.
You'd be great at basketball if you had chameleon eyes.
I'm going to go with like a crocodile's eyes. I think crocodiles have really cool, like the green eyes with the slit. I just think they're really neat. So I'm going to pick that, even though I'd look kind of evil. I'd look really evil.
Do you know who'd be really well served by chameleon eyes is Gandalf? Because remember the promise he makes, he'll keep one eye on Frodo.
Yeah, he could always
both eyes whenever possible or whatever. But if he could only afford to keep one eye, he could use the other eye and look at like other things. You wouldn't have to just be looking at Frodo the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, he might have the capability to give himself chameleon eyes.
Yeah,
that's
Can he
true.
Do that? I like crocodile eyes too, because then I'd have a nictitating membrane and I could have like built-in goggles. Cool. So I like that. I like my answer. Gandalf, give me some crocodile eyes.
Yeah. Sure.
Lindley Parsons, what's your most hated chore?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Folding laundry.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, it's the worst.
One.
It's kind of like
you have to do it so much,
and you already kind of feel like you did the laundry, but all you did was the easy part. There's the worst part still to come, and like the dryer cycle never quite lines up with your schedule. So like you always leave them in there maybe while you're out running errands, and they're a little wrinkly.
I think where I'm at, just because of location, it's vacuuming, because I have my vacuum in this like area where it's really like saves me space to have it in this one little closet thing, but then it's like really hard for me to get in the closet, and then just even getting the vacuum out turns into a chore, and then
yeah. I think for me it's probably dishes. I always like splash myself and get wet, and I feel like my hands feel clammy for a while afterwards. I just really don't like doing dishes.
Yeah, I feel like dishes too, like dishwashers really don't help that much. Like, does anyone just stick dirty dishes without cleaning them in dishwashers?
Yeah.
You have to give them like a rinse first.
Ours, we rinse them, but we don't have to like scrub them, and we just put them in. It's a lot faster with our dishwasher than washing them by hand. So what do you
hate about it then, if you just need to stick them in there?
I still hate it. I still get wet, and I still just don't like doing it. And then there's always some that I have to do by hand.
You just hate getting wet.
Yeah. Like, because
you like water slides?
It's the only chore. It's the only like normal chore where I have to like then go like change my shirt afterwards too, because I've splashed dishwater all over it. Like,
just rinsing them off.
Yeah, and then also, I'm not just rinsing. Like most of our dishes can go in.
Haven't learned how to do spoons yet,
but like pans,
it bounces off the
pans and
bowl
stuff.
Of the spoon.
Pans and stuff like you need to like scrub by hand. And I'm gonna do a big disclaimer here because I'll get in trouble if I don't. Jesse does a lot of our dishes. Like 95% of the time, Jesse's doing our dishes. And I do plenty of the other chores around, but like we're very different in that I don't mind kind of letting dishes build up a little bit before I do them. And she needs them to be done. And so she's realized that that's kind of her like thing. So she'll do them.
That's me.
Because she'd rather
the move
them
just
build
to
up.
like, instead of putting it in the sink, put it in the dishwasher?
Yeah. And I usually do. I almost always just put my dishes in the dishwasher. But when they do pile up after like a big dinner or something, I don't like doing them. But I will if Jesse asks me to.
Oh yeah, that's true. If you like cook dinner and you try to like do more than just like one item, somehow it's like impossible not to have like 30 dishes that you gotta wash afterwards.
I'm not talking about like a cereal bowl here or like a glass I just drank some water out of. I mean like a sink full of dishes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I get you. I just want to pry a little bit. You know?
Yeah.
Investigate.
That's what we're
Well,
here to
I
do.
think we're good.
Yeah.
That one, you know, we talked about that one a while.
Yeah. All right. So for our conservation on this one, I want to get into something that I've become very passionate about recently and that I feel even more passionate about now. And that is adopting dogs rather than buying dogs. And like learning about this history of domestication and everything makes it even that much more important to me because we essentially created this animal by bringing them into our societies. And we have created an animal that depends on us for its mere existence. Like dogs need us. And in some ways we need dogs. And I think it's uniquely cruel that we have all of these dogs that don't have homes, that don't get to have that socialization anymore. And they have to sit in these shelters when people are going out and like buying new breeds and paying exorbitant amounts of money for dogs that have been bred. So if you are considering a dog, I really just want you to like, before you get one, especially if you're thinking about buying one that's from a breeder, look at like shelters and look at those eyes of those dogs and really strongly consider getting one from a shelter. I know that we all have like our own battles that we fight, and I'm not going to say this needs to be everyone's battle, but it has become one of mine. And I'm not going to judge people that don't do this, but I do really think you should strongly consider it because those dogs need homes and they're sad and like they need owners. That's what makes them happy. So I'm a big proponent of adoption.
Yeah, us too.
And when we get another dog, it'll for sure be a rescue dog. Without a doubt.
You know, Bob Barker did a lot of bad things, but at least he's looking
Stay
out
near
for
to your
dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I do think there's some exemptions to that. Like if you need a specific dog for a specific job, then it kind of makes sense to get a certain breed. But like even if you're into German Shepherds or Huskies or whatever, there are rescues out there that only have German Shepherds or only have Huskies. You can find the dog you want at a rescue. You can find puppies at rescues. You can find them out there. And if everyone wants to get those dogs, then it's going to kill this industry of breeding puppies for profit. So I'm a big proponent of that. I know Bryce was a rescue and she changed my life. So I just want to end on two quotes that I found that I thought were really beautiful. This one's from Josh Billings, who was like a comic or something in the 1800s. I don't know. He said, a dog is the only thing. Yeah, I should have looked into who this guy was. A dog is the only thing on earth that loves you more than he loves himself, which is very true. This one's from Milan Kundera. They said, dogs are a link to paradise. They don't know evil or jealousy or discontent. To sit with a dog on a hillside on a glorious afternoon is to be back in Eden, where doing nothing was not boring, it was peace. And I definitely echo that. And I definitely miss my dog.
We miss her too.
All right. Well, thanks guys for listening.
Everyone with a dog, give your dog a little
Go give your dog a little
scratch for Wes right now.
All right.
And for me.
If you are interested, yeah, sure. From Jeff too and Mike. If you're interested in more content, we have our Patreon and our Apple Grizz Club. Jeff just did a fun episode about animals that the Alien movies were inspired by that we recorded while we were in Africa. And I feel like it was a very loose episode, but it came together well. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Mike, what was your most recent one? I really liked it too.
Oh, the dangers of the wildlife in Europe.
In Europe, yeah, very low.
Danger is in quotation marks.
So for $10 a month, you'll get access to those, plus our entire catalog of bonus episodes. We produce 2 of those a month. They're really fun. We really enjoy doing them. So check us out on Patreon. Just go to Patreon and Google Tooth and Claw, or just Google Tooth and Claw Patreon and sign up.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun little community. If you are a subscriber already, message us for Discord access if you're not on there. And, $10 a month, we think it's worth it to people. Like, people seem to think it's worth it. But, like, some people just can't afford that. And don't make us tell you the loopholes, but just figure it out,
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode. Thanks for letting me get a little emotional about my dog. And we will talk to y'all later. We love you.
All right. Love you guys. Love you, Bryce, up there.
Yep. Love you, Bryce.
See ya.
Bye.